Jalo ya ukokumala masimeni. Jalo ya ukokumala masimeni. Lomhla uyathemba ngabona bona. Okay guys, welcome to my show. It's your girl Lola Bola. Hi South Africa and welcome to my channel. Okay, so igama lami nguNcebo Buthelezi, and yeah, so I decided to start this organization. I'm gonna tell you all about it right here. So Vindicate is a non-profit organization which aims to protect and eradicate racial and social injustices experienced by Black South Africans. We are seeking to bring into fruition an economic environment that not only accommodates but celebrates the generations set to bear the fruits of a hardly fought freedom. Okay guys, so we obviously all understand what the ANC came and what the ANC did for us as Black people. They freed us, they gave us an opportunity to actually vote as Black people and actually have, you know, equal opportunities, I would say, even though that's not necessarily reflective in our society today. But yes, ultimately that's what we're here to do. Black people will no longer sweat for the economy. It is now our turn to participate in the economy. No longer will junior management positions remain reserved for Black people in order to simply satisfy the transformation objectives, nor will our people to continue to be used as token Blacks in top structures. We at Vindicate will ensure that the government accounts to its people for the very first time. Policies that favor white businesses, such as Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act, have no place in the society that we as Vindicate envision. So, Black consciousness, guys, Black consciousness, deep Biko, is our core value. The time for twanging our names just so that we sound like white people is honestly a thing of the past. I know personally I had an issue. Primary school, high school, varsity, life in general, nobody can pronounce Uncebo. And the time for example, where kids are not allowed to wear ispan schooling, shame, papayin, we are abolishing all of those policies, and that's what we're here to do. Awesome. And yeah guys, stay tuned. And yeah, so first things up is what I'm gonna do every single week is let you guys know what this week's news is, what's the latest, what's happening, especially when it comes to like Black related matters and lack of transformation and all of those beautiful things that actually affects us as Black people. That's what I'm here to talk about. So yeah, we're gonna move on to the news now. Okay guys, so this week's news, and this is obviously the highlights of this week's news. It's not everything that's happened this week, but what I feel is relevant and that you guys need to know. First topic, a man who basically ultimately sets his wife on fire, or his girlfriend on fire, because of baby girl wangena embedeni ebusuku wathi bhuti shifter ngicela ukulala wenza space for ingane wathi yabona ukujwala kabi. Homeboy went, fetched paraffin, poured it over baby girl and set her on fire. And guess what our courts did? Our judicial system did. They sentenced him to 18 years. Guys, what can I say? You know, 18 years is honestly, I'm older than 18 years myself. And honestly, that means that this person's going to be out in no time. And it's just honestly a hypocrisy and once again, a spit in the face by our judicial system to women in this country that basically they don't take our struggle seriously. This guy should not be getting out. The fact that you can do this in front of an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, his 9-year-old son actually testified and gave the full story as to how it happened, everything. That's really traumatic. This man should not be free. But I see collabo. Moving on to the next topic, Pumla Williams, you guys know, is a spokesperson of the cabinet, has released a statement which is on the screen below. So basically, the long and short of it, little baby girl says that it's a great concern, of course, the clicks advertisements published by clicks websites, which justifiably triggered widespread public outrage.
So I just want to show and highlight, of course, we all know what's been happening in Capitec and Nedbank. And since our government has so much money to play with and setting up all these million-1 commissions, can we actually set up a commission of inquiry into the banking sector? Because it's not the first time something like this has happened. And Capitec is honestly a bank that's used by the poorest of the poorest people in our country. And Nedbank is a bank that is obviously a very big bank and well-established. And honestly speaking, for them to actually come and say it's a technical error is not good enough. And it goes to show that it's something they've been doing and nobody's really called them to order up until today. But I want to show you the inconsistency in terms of reporting when it comes to white companies that are in trouble versus Black companies. Look at Eyewitnesses News' headline. It's a technical glitch. Taking thousands from people. It's a technical glitch. And let's see. Times Live, double deduction glitch. I just can't find the e-news. Yeah. Netbank scramble. Okay, yeah. And yeah, that's the long and short of it, guys. And if you go onto the e-news website, you'll see as well. Their heading was also technical glitch. You know, everywhere it's just a technical glitch, and that's what it boils down to if it's white people. So if you are still failing to get your money back from Capitec, hit us up. We are working with you guys for free to actually get to the bottom of this, and no longer will these types of things actually be tolerated. And yeah, I urge the president to really set up a commission of inquiry, since he's really about commissions of inquiry into the banking sector, so we can see all the injustices. This is just but for one. There's many of them that are still to be uncovered. That Clicks has obviously failed to prevent the advertisement from being published on his behalf. And now the question to ask is, would Clicks be liable for hate speech or racial slur? Having seen that very little can be done with regulatory structures in place to ensure that companies that are confronted and penalized for allowing subtle racism, can they be brought to the courts on the basis of an infringement of a constitutional right? I mean, our right to dignity has really been infringed as South African women with this advert. The question remains unanswered, and I think the right institution that should be commenting on this is the South African Human Rights Commission. And basically, this is the statement released by the South African Human Rights Commission, as you guys can see on their Twitter page. And let's open the statements. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, Clicks further concede that said advertisement was offensive, distasteful, racist, and unfairly discriminatory. Right? Cool. Great story. The Commission's chairperson, Advocate Bongani Majola, stressed to Clicks that the nature of adverts on Clicks' website together with others in the retail industry is inconsistent with the constitutional objectives of South Africa, transformation, and efforts to promote social cohesion. Okay, that goes without saying, Mr. Commissioner. So what are you going to do about it as the Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission? Are you instituting legal action on the behalf of the South African people that actually your whole association is literally funded off? Absolutely nothing. And yeah, so basically, during the engagements with Clicks, it emerged clearly that the structural racism continues to hinder the industry more broadly. And ultimately, this homeboy is saying that they welcome the steps and the procedures put in place now by Clicks. Who knows what those procedures are? I'm jealous so that I understand, because Tinaswas, they must tell us what they are. But I just want to go on their page, guys, just to show you the South African Human Rights Commission and show you how inconsistent they are. Né? So when it comes to Clicks matter, as you can see, there's only one tweet from them, right? One. Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, so here we are now. Farm murders. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tweets about farm murders. 5 different statements from the South African Human Rights Commission on one matter. Guys, honestly speaking, all that means is that white lives matter more. And in this statement, basically, they say that they're going to investigate all those people who have been on Twitter and basically, uttering racist statements and saying that basically, the farm murders were justified and that they should die and whatever the case may be. Of course, it's not acceptable and it should be condemned and it should be investigated. But now, hold on. Where's the consistency? You can investigate farm murders and people saying that, oh, your farm murders deserve to die. But when it comes to black people and people being ridiculed and being basically infringed upon, our human rights being infringed upon, you have absolutely nothing to say but the fact that you welcome Clicks' thing. In fact, Mr. President, please, you're wasting our taxpayers' money with our South African Human Rights Commission. I don't know whose human rights they're actually out here looking after, because it's not ours. It's certainly not ours. And enough is enough. And honestly speaking, South African Human Rights Commission, we expect to see papers. We expect to see papers in the coming week on Clicks, or else, honestly speaking, you failed in terms of your constitutional mandates and you must just accept it.
Inequality in South Africa, precisely because we've got policies, race-based policies that have been laid on the evils of prior race-based policies. And that's why we still have 30 million South Africans living in poverty. It's why we have 13 million South Africans unemployed, and an economy that's not growing. 99.7%.
No, it's because you and your homeboys control 90% of the economy, yet you make up 20% of the population. Just imagine that. That is an inequality. And guys, this ends my show. And guess what? This is honestly the moment of the week. Whatever dark you're still voting for DA, you know exactly how the DA feels now. These guys are basically trying to push a policy that no longer sees race, which basically means that bye-bye BEE, bye-bye all the initiatives that have been taken by government to basically try and level the playing field, basically bring black people into the economy and allow them to stop participating. And guess what DA is saying in 2020? Guys, listen, we're not a first world country. We are very far from that. And it just goes to show once again that white people have their own interests at heart and not our interests. And honestly, vogataki. Today's case study is our case with Clicks. EFF and Unilever reached an agreement on the whole Clicks matter. Okay, first of all, who sends EFF? Number one. But number two, let me tell you guys what the settlement was. Before I get to the settlement, of course, let me just give a brief description or background. So Unilever is the company that owns the brand Tresemme, and Tresemme is the company that was in charge of the adverts that came out, which said our hair shirts. So basically, moving fast forward, EFF went and they were marching and they were fighting and they locked down and they shut down Click stores. And now Click stores will reopen and we'll continue doing business as usual because EFF and Clicks have reached an agreement. Now let me tell you what that funny agreement is. First of all, Clicks is going to donate sanitary pads. Cartel pads. It's cartel. If we could participate in our economy, maybe perhaps we could afford our own pads as a point of departure. Okay, so they're going to donate pads, they're going to donate sanitizers, and then they're going to give 5 bursaries to black people, 5 bursaries. And basically, we must clap our hands, shy, small, we say, oh, Clicks, it's not over, Clicks, it's not over. We are not done, we are not done with you. And at the end of the day, we didn't send the EFF because we sent our governments, hence we voted. EFF was not sent by us. So who told EFF that they can actually reach a settlement on our behalf? So that their kids can get those 5 bursaries. Uvuyani Pambo, spokesperson of EFF, has a baby, so he knows he's set for life. And if you guys recall clearly, not so long ago, a few years ago, H&M, we had the same issue at H&M, racism. EFF, what did they do? Hi, we're going to lockdown. Where's H&M today? Same spot, same shopping center. In every single mall, you'll find them still there. In Santa, the very same Santa they went in Mala, it's still the H&M. So it obviously goes to show that whatever mechanism that they're using to actually try fight and combat racism is not working. And that's number one. Number two, asintumang, boy, and tunyanga team as South Africa. As much as you want to be the voice, because ANC is of course useless and silent and a protector of white supremacy and white monopoly and all of those things, you guys think that now we've sent you. We haven't sent you. We'll show you when we sent you through the ballot paper. We have not sent you as yet. Who's the head of the social and ethics committee at Clicks is a colored lady called Bettina Echebrand. Now I want to distinguish between executive and non-executive. So at Clicks we have but only 3 executive directors, and that's the CEO, India, Vikesh Banban Namaz. And then Gubo CFO, Umlungu, Michael Fleming, Masguba Ulosilona, Bettina Echebrand, she colored lady. Okay. She is now, before just a few days ago or a few months ago, we had 4 executives, another white male. Now we don't have him. That white male, a secret love. Anyways, we have 3 now. And this lady, colored lady, once again, is made the head of the social ethics committee. And white people, stop doing this. Please, stop making black people head of transformation drives. Stop it. Stop it. Because as you have seen, guys, during the week, which is literally the most cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life, the only black female on the non-executive directors of Clicks, what's her name? Gobodo. Okay, I'll just Gobodo. She was sent forward by Clicks to comment on the matter and apologize on behalf of Clicks. Why are you sending a person, first of all, who's a non-executive, who's not involved on the day-to-day running of Clicks, to go speak on the matter? But today's topic, of course, is racism and cultural sensitivity, ethics, and transformation policies within Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed companies. And of course, today's case study is our case with Clicks. And yeah, so in this episode, we shall shed light on racism,
cultural sensitivity, ethics, and transformation within the Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed companies, and more especially the Clicks Group. We'll consider the various stakeholders tasked with ensuring that the above key points are adequately addressed by the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and all the listed companies. We'll consider the JSE, its regulatory structures and policy on key points. We'll consider the FSCA and regulatory structures and policy on the above key points. Same will be done with the BBBEE Commission. Okay, having regard to the above information, we'll review the Clicks Group structure in special consideration to the above key points. It is our objective to determine whether listed companies are really compliant with regulations pertaining to racism, transformation, and ethics, and what measures are put in place to actually ensure compliance with them. Good day, Zotwa. How are you doing? I'm very well, thank you. Welcome to our show. Thank you very much for taking the time to obviously do this interview with us. All right, guys, listeners, on the phone we have Zotwa Ntuli, who is the Commissioner of the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Commission. And yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me. I look forward to sharing with you our perspective.
All right, perfect. So today's topic, guys, as everybody knows, is of course the discussion on racism and cultural sensitivity, ethics, and transformation policies within JSE listed companies. So I think as a point of departure, I'll let the Commissioner take us through the mandates of the Commission and of course the legislative mandates as well, and just to explain to our viewers what's the job of the Commission, what type of complaints you guys investigate, and then we'll take it further from there.
No, thank you very much. I think before we even start with our mandate, I think it's important to again remind ourselves in terms of why we exist, but as well as why it is important for South Africa to focus and seriously so on the transformation agenda. Our economy is still very, very unequal. We still have the majority of this country not being part of the economy. But over and above that, we have a history of racism, we have a history of segregation, and our constitution recognizes that. And it is for this reason why every time in South Africa, when we speak about black and white, or black or white colored Indians, it's not because we are proud of those segregation terminologies, but it is to recognize that these were the very same terminologies that were used to create the inequality that we see now. And for us to be in a position to get to a point of equality, we need to be able to redress those that were basically excluded from the economy. So it is important that we understand the context, that the transformation agenda of this country, the transformation agenda that firstly seeks to redress, so that then we can find ourselves in a situation where there's equality, where we can then see each other as human beings, but over and above that, where opportunities are available to us, not because of our color, but because we are human beings. So it will be a fallacy for anybody to suggest or even think that without redress, we can start now and say we are looking at each other as equals, because we are not equal. So the system made it like that. So we need to redress that. So that's the first point that I just wanted to make. And then now, South Africa, when we got our democracy, there was a decision obviously that was made, and it is in our constitution to drive the equality. And so there are a number of pieces of legislation that were then developed at the time. You'll recall that there's a legislation that is called Employment Equity.
Yes.
And the Employment Equity Act is intended to transform the workplaces, all right, which obliges basically all of the employers to make sure that they achieve the necessary diversity and the necessary representation in the workplaces, so that our workplaces reflect the demographics of the country. And then in 2003, so the Employment Equity Act was passed in 1998, and then in 2003, then government also introduced the Triple B Act, which is the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act.
Yes.
This was going to focus now on redressing in regards to the economy, all right?
Yes.
So it is the workplace through the Employment Equity Act, and then the economy in terms of the Triple B Act. So now under the Triple B Act, there are 5 elements that as this country we test. Those are the key elements that we test to see if black people are being included in the economy in the manner that it should help us to arrive at a level of equality that would reflect the demographics. So we look at the aspects of ownership.
Yeah.
Do black people own the part of the economy of this country? If they do, what is the percentage? Is it reflective of the people that were then previously excluded?
Yeah.
And when we speak about black within the context of Triple BEE, we talk about African people, coloreds, Indians, and then there is a population of Chinese people who took a matter to court, and they succeeded to make a justification that as a Chinese population that was in South Africa during apartheid, they were classified and treated in the same way that colored people were treated, and the court decided that they can then benefit under the Triple B Act.
Okay.
So it is not every Chinese person that is in this country. There is a population, and Home Affairs has got a register of those particular people that can benefit based on that court judgment.
Okay.
So now, our role as the Commission, our role as the Commission is now to oversee the implementation of the Triple B legislation, to make sure that those things and initiatives that should drive the transformation agenda of this country in respect of ownership, management control, enterprise and supply development, skills development, and the socio-economic development are being achieved. In the sense that all those initiatives, our job is to make sure that those initiatives are real and that there is no fronting practices or misrepresentation. So that is, in short, what is it that we are doing and the reason why we're doing it.
Okay, so basically from what you've just told us, I noticed immediately that of course, the Act and the Commission's mandates revolves around inclusion, but doesn't really address the issue of racism in the sense of ill treatments, infringements upon one's dignity as defined and protected by our Constitution. So you're saying that ultimately that's left to, the Employment Equity Act. It's not really part of the mandates of the Commission. Am I understanding correctly?
Not necessarily that. I think what I was explaining to you is the key legislation that deals with directly with the economy. All right?
Yes, exactly.
The other aspects around racism, they would also be part of what we are doing. All right? Because the very same purpose of creating inclusivity and representation is because some of the exclusions, even today, continue to be driven by how we are looked at as black people.
True.
All right?
Very
so even today, in 2020, there are black people that are excluded from accessing just business opportunities purely because they are black, not because they do not have the capability. So it is important that when we speak about the issue of racism, that we do not take it out completely from the context of the economic agenda of this country.
Yes.
So our very own economy is currently in the state that it is in, mainly because of the inequality that this country has seen. So we've got 3 challenges that we have as a country. The main challenge is inequality, all right? And you'll see that in our NDP, there are measures that were put in place to say that we should drive that so that we can close the gap between the rich and the poor. So we continue having the gap of very, very poor people and very, very rich people. And because the economy is not being addressed properly, that continues to be perpetuated in such a way that, again, you find that the racism as well would not be properly addressed if our system still continues to allow the segregation, even if it's subtle in nature. It should not be allowed. All right? So I just wanted to explain that racism is something that should be addressed, whether it's in the social setting, and in the economic setting and in the workplace.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I was giving you is just
Context.
the key legislation that deals with it in the workplace as well as in the economy.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
And I just want to say again, I know that you'll be talking to the Human Rights Commission,
Yes,
and maybe the gender commission, perhaps those, because those are Chapter 9 institutions.
yes, yeah.
That
No, we
government
are
set
speaking to
up
them. We've got them
deal
at
with
2.
those issues.
Yeah.
Yes, as well.
Yeah.
But then racism is not necessarily something that you can exclude from
The
dealing
economic,
with your
yes.
daily activities. Yes.
Precisely. All right, thank you very much. So now my next question is simply, since you've obviously stated, what the role of the commission is in terms of, pushing the agenda of transformation. Now, do you believe that in terms of the JSE, I'm speaking specifically about the JSE, given of course we know what has happened over the past few weeks with the Click saga and what's been happening for a very long time with different companies. We had it with H&M, we've had it with many different companies in South Africa. And now my question is, do you believe that as the commission, you guys have done a good job in terms of transforming the JSE? Because I think that's where the problem starts. Now, I'm putting this to you because we went onto the JSE's website. We've asked the JSE for commentary on their policies of transformation. They don't have one. They don't have a stance. And I mean, we're sitting in 2020. We got a democracy in 1994. For JSE, to actually say as a regulator of all these companies that we do not have a policy and we don't have a position on transformation, how do you feel as the commissioner of BEE? As the commissioner of broad-based black economic empowerment, how do you feel when a statement like that can be made? I mean, I literally, we spoke to the JSE, and that's exactly their position, is that, look, we cannot dictate to companies what they do in terms of transformation. We cannot dictate the practices in which they practice within their internal policies in terms of their ethics committees and so forth. We cannot impose that. All we do is we regulate the financial, their financial activities, but we cannot impose that. And I'm asking you now, because this is very important, because it comes back to ownership. It speaks directly to ownership, because we're also going to get to that one in terms of black ownership and black direct ownership in the JSE. So I'm asking, what's your opinion, and how do you feel that the BEE has been hindered, whether it's politically, whether it's policy-wise, whether, you feel like your mandate hasn't been extended enough to enable you guys to actually be able to effectively deal with these issues of transformation, especially within these JSE-listed companies?
All right. I think what your question, the way you've put it, actually, what can I say? It's really demoralizing, and I understand why. And I think also, on my part, I get frustrated when I look at the figures and I look at where we are as a country. Because in the pace that we are driving transformation, if this is the pace that we are going to be driving it again next year and the coming year, then we will not be getting anywhere. Because why? And that is why I spoke to you about the employment equity, because this is what I just want to focus on, the aspects of ownership, and I want to also focus on the aspect of the management and the top management in companies, because you must understand that if the companies are not transformed, you will not necessarily get the policies of the companies to be transformed. All right. And so now, when you spoke about the JSE, all right, the JSE listed companies are governed firstly by the Companies Act in this country before the JSE rules. All right. So the Companies Act of this country also requires that the JSE listed companies have what we call a social and ethics committee, which is a board committee that will focus on ensuring that the companies are transformed and that they implement the policies of this country that talk to transformation. That will be your employment equity. So they must have their employment equity plan. They must drive it. They must ensure that they meet the targets that are set from time to time, because the targets are set in the plans. But secondly, they also need to make sure that they've got a triple BE strategy and policy, and have a plan and measure themselves on an annual basis in terms of how they are doing against the plans. So now there is no reason for any entity to say that they are not necessarily required to transform, because these are the transformation legislation and requirements of this country, and they are governed by the laws of this country. All right, that's the first thing that I just want to say, that it is a requirement, it is mandatory under the Companies Act for them to have the Social and Ethics Committee that will ensure that they focus on the transformation issues, including the broad-based Black economic empowerment. And now it cannot, therefore, be said that this is not something that they are required to do. That's the first part. The second thing that I just want to indicate is that now, under the BBBE Act, there are companies that do believe that they do not rely on the state, all right, for doing business. Therefore, they believe that because they don't need anything from government, they don't need a tender, they don't need a license from government, they don't need that, and maybe because they are also monopolies, they do not necessarily need to transform, and in any event, they will still get business even if it's not from government, all right?
Yes.
However, it is important to note that under the BBBE Act, all right, every entity that does business with government, all right, whether you're getting tenders from government or whether you've got a PPP arrangement with government, like a private-public partnership, or whether you are getting a license, whether you are in mining or it's a permit from a municipality, or if you're getting any of that, and also if you're getting any grant, economic grant or incentive from government, all right, you are required to comply with the BBBE Act, all right? And so it is immaterial whether you are JSE listed or not JSE listed.
Yes.
As long as you need a permit, a license, or anything from government, you are required to be compliant. And then any other entity that does business with that particular entity is required to comply. So now it cannot be that in this country, in fact, there's an entity that is not required to be BBBE compliant. So transformation is necessary and it is required in terms of the legislation. Now, when we come to now the picture on the JSE, the picture on the JSE is not looking good. As the regulator, we started in 2016, all right? And every year we are required to assess the level and progress of transformation in regards to the JSE listed companies. So they submit what we call BBBE compliance reports to the Commission. So every JSE listed company is supposed to be submitting that information to us on an annual basis, so that we can measure how they're doing on ownership, management control, skills development, enterprise and supply development, and socio-economic development. So now we released our report recently. And we also had webinars on it to really interrogate what is the status. We find that, one, the level of submission of reports by the JSE listed companies was not good. Out of the 356 JSE listed companies that we could record for last year, we only received only 150 reports, all right? So this issue has also been raised with the JSE. We have engaged with the JSE in order to increase the level of submission of reports, all right? So now the concern about the level of submission of reports is that often when somebody cannot give you a report on how they are doing on what they are supposed to report on, then there's a good chance that they actually don't have any initiatives that are being implemented. So it is also an indication that there may not be any transformation taking place. Now, moving from that, out of the 150 reports that we've looked at, we've seen that the Black ownership on the JSE listed companies is still very low. So overall,
do you have a correct? Do you have a
percentage?
Sorry to disturb you. Do you have an exact percentage in terms of direct ownership?
In terms of we're talking about ownership first in general.
Yes.
And then because it's only through a specific interrogation of a single report where you can then break it down into whether it's direct ownership or it's ownership through a trust or it's ownership through institutions and all of that. But in terms of the BBBE Act, what we measure is Black ownership, which means that Black ownership must ultimately have a natural Black person at the end who is the owner, all right? So what we do is that we pierce through all the corporate structures to find the natural person that will make that ownership Black. So on the JSE, obviously, we've got multiple shareholders. So there is a mechanism where companies measure and they need to be in a position, when they claim Black ownership, they need to be in a position to justify why that is Black. And when the Commission tests it, it will test it up until it finds that Black person. So now the one thing that I just want to mention immediately is that of the JSE listed companies, only 3% is 100% black owned. Only 3%. So on the JSE, the level of transformation of the JSE entities in terms of ownership is very low. It's only 3%, 100% black. All right? And then secondly, in terms of the overall ownership in this country, black people only account for 29%, when actually black people are over 80% of the population. And they're over, again, 80% of the economically active population. So now, already that gives you a picture that is not desirable. And that picture, if we are saying this is how we look in 2020, and we attained our democracy in 1994, then you can see that there is a lot that needs to be accelerated. So our job as the regulator at the moment is to now ensure that, firstly, we advocate for this change through awareness and through monitoring the initiatives that are being implemented. Secondly, is to ensure that where those initiatives are being implemented, that we can then eradicate the schemes that are doing a make-believe, because most of the schemes that were initiated in the early years of our democracy, which were meant to be advancing black people, when you look at them today, they never transferred any ownership to black people, because there were schemes that were structured in a way that they are just warehousing type transactions, or they are just fronting schemes. And fronting at a time was not even a criminal offense. So it is for this reason that now fronting is a criminal offense, and the commission was then established to monitor, so that when we pick fronting, then we're able to deal with it, address it immediately, or where it is a blatant criminality that we are picking up, that we refer it to the criminal prosecution authorities, and we can report it to SAPS, because it is a criminal offense. So that is basically what our job is. But then I just want to say that it is important for us as a country to reflect, to say that, you know, it's not only just the good in people that is going to change. That is why we've got the laws. People do not just change because they want to change. It's for this reason that we need to then enforce these laws that have already been put in the country. And that's our role as the commission. And then what we then only need on our side, as we look at it now and we look at where we are, we think that we need more resources as well to monitor more in the where people are, you understand, so that we can be on those entities. We are able to pick up these things more proactively, as opposed to wait for complaints. And because we need to drive that, so we need the regulatory bodies to be in a position to be resourced to be able to pick these things proactively. But where we pick blatant criminality as well, we need the criminal justice system to expedite those cases and make sure that they prosecute and throw some of those people that disrespect this country, you know, through fronting
and publicize it. And publicize. We want to know them. They must be named and shamed. We want to know. And I think it's very important to have this discussion, because as young black people, and I refer back again, you know, we're very frustrated because, of course, we have a government. We vote a government we vote for our government, right? We elect a political party, and that political party is supposed to push the agenda of a certain race. And we feel as black people that hasn't been done, and we see it directly through these companies. There's a lack of transformation. Okay, so if I take you to the Clicks example, Clicks was registered in 1986 as a company. We're sitting today, Clicks is a level 6 BE contributor. You understand? It's a hypocrisy. It's a joke. It's actually a funny because obviously these people don't take us seriously. Yet black people are the ones who are buying their products. We are the ones who are buying their products. We wish we could establish our own Clicks. But as you said, I mean, I read your guys' reports in terms of the strategy, the document that you guys released on the 2017, 2018, 2021 BEE strategy. You know, I saw, and it's laughable. You know, it's actually just like it's just a blatant disregard of the laws. And you said it clearly at the beginning when you said there's certain white companies who feel that because they don't do tenders or they don't rely on state contracts, they do not have to comply with BEE codes. And that's what I was trying to that's what I was trying to establish, that actually they have to. Because if you look at an example such as Clicks, first of all, has licensing from SAHRC. SAHRC is a state-owned institution, right? Because to run their pharmacies. And then on top of it, if you look at the JSE is regulated by the FSCA. You know, so they have an obligation to really take this thing of transformation seriously. And we think as young people, this is how we feel as young people, it's our opinion, as the commissioner of the BEE commission, you guys need to be more. You need to be more aggressive and more unapologetic. Because we see it. And when it comes to black people who are fronting, we know them. We see it. They've been named and shamed. When it comes to white companies who have been fronting and pushing their helpers and their domestic workers and making them the owners of those companies and blatantly disregarding the law of our country, nothing happens to them. I haven't seen one white person in prison, okay, or having a fine imposed, a serious hefty fine imposed for the lack of transformation. And I'm saying with the clicks issue, I understand, of course, it's a racial thing, they're advertising, and that's not something the BE Commission can necessarily, come in and intervene and whatever the case may be. But I do believe that the BE Commission has an obligation to go back to clicks and say, clicks, the reason that this happened is because of a lack of transformation. You were established in 1996, and today we're sitting in 2020, and you're still sitting at a level what BE, you're still sitting at level 6. As a contributor. It shows that in your junior positions, this is how these white guys do it. I was a lawyer, I'm at a law firm, a white-owned law firm. They fill us up at the bottom. Articles, yes, you form part of the teams, and now you go to the top. As you go higher and higher and higher in the structure, you realize there's no black people. And the fact that they could still, the head of the ethics committee at Clicks, by the way, is a black person. That time is gone now. We cannot allow these companies to put black faces there and say, okay, now we're complying. We have a black person as head of our ethics committee. They pushing the transformation agenda. Let's throw them under the bus. Exactly like how Clicks bought Ukoboto to come and speak on their behalf. Why did they do that? Was she the one who was signing off on those things? We are tired of that, and that's our point. It's as simple as that. And thank you so much that
can I just do a closing remark there?
Okay.
And I think you've said a mouthful. And I must say to you that I agree with a whole lot of things that you're saying. All right. So now, in terms of just what you said around black people being at the bottom, even in the corporate structure, but not piercing through the corporate structure into the other levels. Hence, I said to you, at the moment, our report showed us that on 60%, over 60%, it's still dominated by white people. And now what is worrying is that even when there is a new opening, a vacancy, it's still not being filled by black people. All right? So it's for that reason that we agree with you. So we are, as the commission, we started in 2016, we started with a compliance strategy to say, let us make sure and help people and give them free advice. What we picked up is that corporates, when you work with them to help them, at times they take that advantage and not actually transform because they're thinking that you will not be able to do anything. So it is for that reason that this year we did announce that we are now moving into our enforcement strategy. So what we are doing right now, we're not tolerating any fronting. And I must say to you that we are also sometimes very, very disappointed when black people that are in the fronting arrangements come to us and say, no, please, we are withdrawing our case, or we don't think that you should be taking it up. We've said to those black people that it's not about you as an individual. The fact that you're getting a cent in your pocket is not good enough. We need to transform the country. So we're going to take up fronting. Whether there is a willing participant in it that is black or not, we're going to take it for prosecution. We have resolved that now we are sending cases. We're no longer going to be in boardrooms where people try to say, okay, give us this much, and people want to negotiate a settlement. I think there would be instances where settlement are negotiated where they are warranted. However, we're going to have a zero tolerance to fronting of black people, whether you front a gardener, a domestic worker, or you front a corporate woman who knows and is knowledgeable, and you find them in these structures, in these entities that are so untransformed, and there will be the spokespeople of those organizations, even when the organizations are not transformed. That's true. We will pick up and deal with those ones that are even glorifying tokenism. So we will not tolerate tokenism, because that is fronting at management level. We will not tolerate fronting in terms of the ownership structures. We will not tolerate any misrepresentation of the PE status in terms of tenders, licensing, and all of that. So we are very resolute about that, and that's why I said that in terms of the need to accelerate, I agree with you fully, and we are up to the game.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your opinion, Commissioner. We really appreciate you taking your time to just join us for this really important topic, and you'll be hearing a lot from Vindicate. We're going to be referring a lot of complaints, a lot of issues, because what we've done in terms of our members, a lot of our members are actually plotted in these companies strategically in junior managerial positions, and they're all coming to the fore now. And they're coming and they're speaking up and they're saying this is what's happening. So we are definitely ready. We are here to offer our support anyhow possible, free of charge. We are here, and we are here to push the agenda of Black people. So thank you very much for helping us and actually coming to this conversation with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Very appreciated.
All right, cool. Thanks, bye. The opinion of the BE Commission and what's Vindicate's stance on this whole matter. And I think as a closing statement, I think I must just say that it remains that Black people have small percentage of direct ownership of the JSE. The country is far from reaching its objective of transformation. According to the Triple BEE Commission's own strategy document that they released this year, they themselves realized that one of the main threats that they've seen, or one of the weaknesses, is the political unwillingness, to actually support the mandates of transformation, of true transformation. It's one of the biggest hindrances that they see each and every day. Hence, we have till today in 2020 only 3% direct ownership within the JSE. I mean 3%, guys. And by the way, according to the codes, they target is 25%. And in a country where as a population of Black people represents 80% of the demographics, and it's just a hypocrisy that our government can set a target of 25%, and we're sitting in 2020, and 94 was a very long time ago since we voted, and this is where we are today, so that's my point on the BEE. So moving on to the Constitution. Okay, cool, guys. So of course, now the last, I'd say, recourse we have is the Constitution, right? And note that Clicks has failed to prevent a racial advertisement from being published on its behalf. Would Clicks then be liable for hate speech or racial slur? Having seen that very little can be done with the regulatory structures in place to ensure that the companies are confronted and penalized for allowing subtle racism, can they be brought to the court on the basis of infringement of a constitutional right? Can a company? That's my question, and I think the South African Human Rights Commission, that's the question actually directly posed to them. What is of greater interest to ask? Whether companies listed on the JSE by virtue of the impact on the South African economy should be required to uphold the values and principles of the Constitution to a greater degree than most. If regulatory measures only impose what is seemingly the bare minimum, should the courts be allowed to go beyond the required minimum and perhaps request Clicks to pay a fine for infringing on the dignity of an African woman? That's my question. And my only thing, and I'm sharing here below, is to look at it, guys, is that you'll see that the South African Human Rights Commission on farm murders, we've seen a lot of farm murders this past week. I'm not saying that the lives of anybody mean more or mean less, but we've seen a lot in farm murders. The South African Human Rights Commission has gone so far in saying that they are going to prosecute those who have posted on Twitter and said that your farm white lives don't matter, or whatever the case may be, kill them or whatever. They said they're going to investigate those people and actually prosecute them. This is our money. So I got from the CEO of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, Leila Fourie. So she says, "Hi Lolo, please accept my sincere apologies. I'm not able to make this." Full stop. End of sentence. And then I wrote to her and said, "Okay, baby girl, I'm sure within your committees that you've established to act as if you guys are transforming, and you have somebody who's dealing with transformation, please send them to come and chat and give their sentence and their stance, how they feel as the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, as this has happened within a company that they are in charge of regulating." And baby girl just said zero. Absolutely nothing. So guys, yeah, it's very sad. It's very, very sad, because here we are today, we're dealing with this issue, and we have people like Leila Fourie, who's the CEO of Johannesburg Stock Exchange, who has no say, no stance on anything that's transformation or race related. By the way, have you, as a South African, just gone to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange website and then gone to transformation, and you'll see what they say. They have no policy at all that they're actually imposing onto all the companies they're regulating. Zero policy,
that they're actually stating that, guys, it's a bare minimum. Can you just comply to A, B, C, D? There is absolutely nothing like that on transformation. That's the JSE stance. They do not give a damn. Meanwhile, these companies are existing in our market here in South Africa, making money who? Of us as South Africans. Clicks brand owns many different brands. In conclusion, guys, the JSE does not impose any policies that prevent racism or cultural insensitivity. We're relying on the FSCA, who actually doesn't have a position on transformation and has allowed the JSE to continue to operate without a clear policy on transformation since our democracy 1994, and it's a hypocrisy and it's sad and all of those things. We can't rely on the JSE, we can't rely on the FSCA, we can't rely on the triple BEE commission. And so who can rely on ourselves, guys? We are here, we are vindicates, we are here to basically show everybody what's going on in South Africa, show really what's going on and not really what's been reported on, because what's been reported on has been very, very, very skewed for too long. And it's time for us to actually correct those injustices. And it's time for us as Black people to really, really, really begin to participate in our economy. So we're here to promote Black business. If you have any issues, if you need access to finance, if you want to actually, if you feel that, for example, if you have approached Clicks to put any of your products on their stores and they said no to you, holler at us. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to march, we're not here to vandalize. We're here to actually ensure that the actual mandate of the ANC prior to what the ANC is today, don't vote for the ANC, prior to what the ANC is today, is actually true economic transformation, so that we can once again participate